Click the links to join the channel here over at Subscribestar, the various other links. I got a mailbox if you want to send me, I don't know, those 50 milliliter magic bottles or some hand-drawn art, whatever would be cool. I do have nothing on my wall. I maybe put something on the wall. So Jonathan Kang Majors, the guy who was in Ant-Man, a movie that bombed, hashtag believe women sometimes, but not against Ezra Miller. Have you considered that it's time to dip out of the mainstream entirely? Because if you pay for anything coming from these filthy, godless parasites, then you're supporting the narrative of these demonic monsters. So all that streaming and movies, and even at this point you go, oh, you know, name brands really are kind of the same thing. It's like maybe it's time to rethink everything. You know, I was thinking the hippy dippy movement of it ebbs and flows, but now it's more of a right-wing movement because it's becoming this buy independent movement, because you realize that these mainstream, like with Hollywood in its entirety, whether you pay for it directly via streaming subscriptions, you can't, there's no way you can consider, no, you can't, there's no way you can do that. Or you pay for it with advertisements. It's like, it's not even worth sailing the high seas and watching it for free without advertising, because it's just either if you're religious, you can call it demonic. If you're not, you can just, you know, call it filthy globalist propaganda. It doesn't matter. It's like, it's not worth watching because you're watching someone's version of brainwashing. There's no need to support it at all. So like suddenly the hippy dippy movement is kind of becoming this right-wing movement of like gardening, canning, prepping, forming small communities. Oh, those are extremist right-wing values. Extreme gardening. I've recently been getting into gardening like crazy. It's fantastic. And, you know, like you can get raised garden beds, very, very reasonably priced to get yourself started. Or you just, you know, get started however way you want in pots and all this kind of thing. It's like, those are extremist values, canning and prepping. And you look at these coastal parasites. I almost call them coastal elites. They think of themselves as, we're highly intellectual. So like you went to a college and you got a liberal arts degrees and masters and PhDs from a self-selecting group of Bolsheviks who are only going to approve you for your dissertation if you're a Bolshevik parasite. Yes, that just happens to be true. We did not get our masters in mechanical engineering and our PhDs in physics. We got them in feminist theory. Oh, okay. So it's like, I mean, that doesn't mean anything at all, right? I mean, you can't actually, you're writing these articles from the coastal parasites, New York and LA or whatever, about the people who are canning and gardening. And you look at these people who are living in New York and LA, living in their apartments, you go, so do you have prep? Like, do you have rice and water and like anything basic in case the S hits the fan? No, we rely on the government. You look around Los Angeles, you're like, are you kidding? Are you familiar? Can I familiarize you with Hurricane Katrina? Or you want to familiarize yourself with someone who can talk more better? What's this guy's name? Black Pilled on Odyssey. He does a channel. He did a video on Hurricane Katrina and what happens in the breakdown of civilization, of civil society. You know, talk about the thinnest of thin veneers. His what's his name? Devin Stack or something? Black Pilled on Odyssey. His channel on Hurricane Katrina and that thin veneer of civilization over this gaping maw of chaos and the hellscape that was the Hurricane Katrina and that athletic center where they went to for like, buddy, if there's a national disaster and your choice is going to like a sports arena in that kind of circumstances, and you have a backpack and a camping kit and a water filtration system and a jar of peanut butter, you're better hiding in the woods, filtering water, and slowly starving to death for a month than you would be going to this government assistance center. That's how bad it is. Like literally that example of if you have a backpack, sleeping bag, tent, water filtration, and the peanut butter because it's super high caloric. Like if you just need to stay alive for 2 weeks or a month, you can find a spot in the woods with access to filter, so you can filter water and just survive for a month. You're better than going to that Hurricane Katrina center. That's how bad that center was. That guy did a video on it on Odyssey. He does live streams and he's got like 500 people in a live stream on Odyssey, which is, it shows you the demand for people are very, very, they're very much looking for something else. Okay, my point was that it's time to dip out of the mainstream entirely, that you don't have to pay for anything coming from these godless vermin parasites, no streaming movies. And then at that point, I was thinking, like, well, name brands in the entirety. It's like it's this indie movement, the Comicsgate idea. And Comicsgate, you think comics, but it's like, what if people, sold the equivalent of tennis shoes or Birkenstocks or T-shirts, or instead of like going to Amazon and supporting that parasite Bezos. What if we thought in a different direction? Like like someone developed, like Eric July, who talked about doing his own website for crowdfunding things, but like, well, why don't you think one step beyond Indiegogo, which is it is for small crowdfunded things, but like think at the Amazon level, where you had a network of people that were not godless parasites, like Amazon, or I guess Indigo, because they sell kind of everything, but like a reoccurring marketplace, like at the Amazon level. There's nothing that says you can't start small and do something like that, because everything coming from the mainstream, like just the Hollywood division is what this kind of channel focuses on. It's like you realize, oh, those are all lizard people pushing poison. So the pop culture, once you cut off all that stuff and you start looking at Comicsgate and you go, oh yeah, I'd rather spend I'd rather buy a comic, a Douglas Ernst and Tim Lim, or one of these comics, Clint Stoker stuff once a month, and like you don't pay for Amazon, Netflix, any of that kind of stuff. But then the other point is like just beyond the Hollywood aspect, you start looking at like all of it, like as many consumer goods as you can start thinking about, thinking, oh, are there other things? Like if I need socks, is there a way for someone to like hand make socks? It's like, I realize it's going to cost 5 times as much, but if you're getting socks from China and they're crap, but if someone like handmade a pair of socks and they go, okay, well, these socks, instead of Chinese socks that cost $1, these are going to cost $20, but they're going to last more than 20 times as long. You go, oh, okay, I guess I would rather pay for that, like a handmade bean. You get the idea where I'm going with this. Like you start to rethink everything, and it's weird how the left wing became this throwaway plastic consumer left wing thing, where there's a resurgence in the 90s of the hippie dippy stuff, and then and they went from Nalgene bottles to buying bottled water and like plastic filling landfills. Like, so that was a weird resurgence. It was like 5 years of because Hollywood told them to have this resurgence, and then it told them to go back to not having this resurgence. Anyway, to continue to support stuff like Amazon, Disney, Cartoon Network, any TV, any Hollywood, you're just supporting anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-family degenerates. Or stuff like Comicsgate is the future. You can think small independent businessmen who don't fly to Epstein's Island or cheer on the abuse in Hollywood for decades. Was it how many pictures do you need to see of people cheering Weinstein, or him taking pictures with Oprah Winfrey while she's offering him a little blonde girl, or like all that filth? And like these are the same people who are lecturing us on morals. And you start to think, oh, giving money to Hollywood, you're supporting Satan, the Lord of the Flies. They're absolute filth and corruption. It's just, once you put on the glasses and you look at Hollywood, you go, oh, these are maggots in the corpse of a rat. That's Hollywood. So anyway, back with Ezra, or not Ezra, whatever this guy's name is, the Ant-Man guy. Of course, we believe women and victims, except because due process is totally overrated, except when it's against Ezra Miller, because all animals are equal, except some animals are first among equal. Sometimes witch trials are fine. Other times it's a travesty of justice. It all depends on the cultural Marxist oppression points. None of it's real, but it's real enough if people believe it. It's real enough to starve 100 million people to death, because the same Bolsheviks that got to China and Russia, and it's all going to happen all over again in America, because they never handled that Bolshevik problem. They're kind of like weeds in that way. You really got to be diligent not to say anything in the comments. And apparently Ezra Miller has special privileges that Johnny Depp and that Mando lady with the giant jugs doesn't have, Gina Carano. And what will happen with this Majors guy who played the Ant-Man thing? Who knows? If his girlfriend is non-white, then the narrative will be going a certain direction. If his girlfriend is a woman of the light, the media will presume him innocent, because the filthy vermin parasites in the media don't count Europeans as human. Yes, it's pretty tiresome. So I did just check, and when they kind of conceal his girlfriend, you have to do image search, and it doesn't pop up right away. Then they're hiding something from you. And one of his girlfriends is blonde. So the story will just have to disappear because Majors has Sunman privilege. So in the court of public opinion, he is allowed to beat someone who's below him on the Frankfurt School hierarchy. And blonde European is at the untouchable level, at the non-human level. So he'll just keep a low profile for a few months. Then he'll just go back to making movies. Eventually, he'll O.J. Simpson the girl or Cosby another girl. But the media doesn't care. They'll blame the victim as long as the victim is blonde. She probably had it coming. You think I'm kidding at first, but to the people who watch the culture war, they know I'm not. The narrative will change according to the fictional place on the Frankfurt School hierarchy used to destroy nations, which is fine because at this point it's better to accelerate it, remove the federal government, go to a 50-state model, and start over, this time without these globalist parasites. It's true that you might not have Hollywood at this scale, and that's a good thing because it's brainwashing the kids into thinking that they're BLT and that Christians are actually their oppressors, and that they need to delete children, which I remind you, just happened. And the anti-white and anti-Christian war will continue until we separate ourselves into smaller communities with hard borders, de facto as well as de jure. Hollywood is Luciferian, and it has turned America into the great Satan. So what will happen to him? So what happened to Ezra Miller? Oh, well, he was tied into hundreds of millions of dollars of movies that were already in development, and Warner Brothers had already taken some hits with the Batgirl movie or Catgirl or whatever, which they made, and it was just cultural Bolshevik propaganda that was just too much even for the audience, and it would have been an absolute bomb for DC Warner Brothers. So they canceled that movie, but then they had this Ezra Miller situation. It's like a $200 million movies, which at this point they had already spent, the total cost is more like $350 million with the advertising and all the stuff that goes along with it. And they go, oh yeah, we can't take a loss like that. That's way too much. So the movie has to come out anyway because money's tied to it. So what about, believe women and hashtag Me Too and all that Alyssa Milano stuff? Yeah, fuck all that stuff. We gotta make some money. We've had too many losses already with. Was it Birds of Prey? Is that DC? Suicide Squad 1 and 2. DC has had a couple other movies, and then you had that Batwoman movie, which is like, oh, so the movie's so bad it got made, and then you cancel it. That's a pretty bad movie considering its current year, and bad movies are kind of the soup of the day. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks to all the support on the Buy Me a Coffee and subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.